Hello, guys, gals, non-binary pals. This is the Mental Health Monday. We're doing this interview edition. Typically, this is a call-in show discussing your struggles, celebrating life triumphs, but today's episode's a little bit different. We have a special guest that we're sitting down with to discuss their story, their perspective on the mental health discussion, and where they came from, where they are now. Of course, if you like what you hear, if you like what you see, head on over to patreon.com/Gooperatives, where just for a couple of dollars, you can help keep the lights on, keep employees paid, all the while unlocking some exclusive shows, some exclusive perks. There'll be a little pre-show for this reel that you can see if you guys want to just hear Chris and I talk pretty candidly. And of course, you get our undying gratitude. But today we're sitting down with Chris. Chris, how do you officially say your last name? Because I've forever botched it, and I never say it right on purpose now.
Yeah, it's been like this like an ongoing thing. I guess nobody knows, but it's Roetter.
Roetter, that's what I thought. Yeah,
but then people just started saying Roetter and bro, like so
Broetter.
Like,
yeah.
But yeah, it's just it is what it is.
I've had people. I like to fancy it up a little bit.
Yo, is your name Chris Rotten? Chris Rotten? Like, dude, yeah,
you missed something there.
Close, yeah, buddy,
like, a little kudos there. Yeah, tell us about yourself a little. I guess a little bio. Let's tell us about yourself.
Yeah, my name's Chris Roetter. I was singing in a band called Like Moths to Flames. Been a band for about 10 years. I guess outside of that, I've invested. Shit, I'll be 30 in June. I've been in bands since I was 15, so half my life to music and kind of just like the grind of being in a band. In my free time, I do kind of like a lot of freelance art. Some of the stuff you see in the back is just some stuff done by me. And then, I'm like very, very much in love with my wife. So a lot of my time is either invested into doing things creative, the band, my wife, or, newly to Twitch within the last year and a half, 16 months. So,
oh man.
Yeah, time kind of flies. It's a little weird, but I think it's reminiscent of like, when you start a local band and you'd go like play shows and there'd be like 10 people there, and then, next couple weekends it's like, holy shit, there's 30 people here, man. We're doing it, bro.
We made it, yeah.
So it's like it's a little role reversal because being in music's been super easy for me. Compared to some people, like this is my third band. Some of my other bands were very short lived, so expectations with this were kind of low.
Sure,
so
yeah.
We kind of just went into it having fun, and here we are 10 years later, and still kicking and doing it. It's just, I think I guess being passionate towards it definitely keeps the fire going, but. Music, I think, is outside of like video games and just like standard like entertainment is kind of what makes my world go around. There's not really a time where there's not some form of music or show or something happening in the background. So yeah, I'm pretty thankful.
So this is like an off the cuff question, but you stream on Twitch. Do you want to talk about kind of like how you got to Twitch? That was going to be sort of like kind of an ending question, but you mentioned it, and I know that you don't want to be hold as the guy that's just Like Moths to Flames front man. Like, I think a bigger part of your identity is how you connect with your audience through Twitch, because you are on a band, but now you have people that come in and are like, hey dude, I saw you in Ohio like 3 weeks ago, and you're like, hey, thanks dude, what's up? You want to talk about that experience with Twitch and like, I guess why you even found it and like just what you do?
Honestly, I don't really even know.
Same, honestly.
Like I just met some people and they were like, yo, dude, you should really start streaming. Like you've got a following. It'd be pretty easy for you. And I mean, that was definitely an overstatement because it's been like a struggle. I think just because you have a following in one thing doesn't mean that people are really going to care to venture off and support something else.
Right.
But yeah, I got a buddy. He's like one of my oldest friends. Ironically enough, like I named. We've been friends since like I was 17, and just like ironically enough, met him through just being a fan of the band. He was just like some like overly like over the top. I love your band. You guys are the best, and we ended up just becoming pretty good friends, and like we he lives out in Cali, and we linked up, and we were like, he took me out to the beach, and he was like, "Yo, dude, like you should really start streaming." And then I got back, and like a couple of just like a couple buddies of mine were kind of like doing like steps down the same venture
Mhm.
and wanting to try it out. So, um, I started doing that. But yeah, going back a little bit, the my buddy Will from California, his Tumblr name when I first met him was Praise Feeder,
Okay.
and the last song on our first record was Praise Feeder, and I had asked him, I was like, "Yo, dude, is it cool if I use like your Tumblr name as the title for this song?" And he was like, "Yeah, man, that's so cool," and whatever. And
Yeah, that's cool.
it's just weird, but yeah, he's a big Overwatch dude. That's kind of what I got in on,
Yeah.
that and Fortnite. So
Yeah. And now you do art, and do you do most of your current merch that like you've been coming out with is all your art station?
everything, yeah,
Yeah.
we try to keep everything in house just because we're all at the point where,
Why pay someone?
yeah, and I like to do it. I like the challenge of like kind of struggling to figure out what I think just like a general consumer will buy, or not that like the people who listen to the band are just like a number, or like a product.
Yeah,
It's
I
like,
mean, you have to
but
consider that.
I just like to be like emotionally invested there, because I think then even with like the lyrical content, that you're getting the best of me. Like I'm
Yeah.
not gonna put out
Yes.
a half-assed merch design and sell two 300 of it for
Right.
it that floating out. No, like I kind of wear like my heart on my sleeve when it comes to that stuff. So yeah, that's kind of like it kind of all started with gaming, and then I realized that there was like this whole creative world
Mm.
that you didn't really have to utilize Twitch as just a gaming platform. I'm
Mhm.
not great at video games. I
Yeah,
love to
same,
play
dude.
them and they're fun, but like I'm not like some pro COD player, some pro Fortnite player. Like, so doing that was, I feel like, when the channel really started to blossom,
Yeah,
because
I think so
people
too.
could see that like there's more to the man. You know what I mean? Like there's
Yeah.
more to me than just like posting the stuff, and like perception is a huge thing, and I
Hmm.
think that for a long time I cared so much about being like this cool guy that like never did anything that was like weird or obscure. And then like really just like the last like since I've been streaming, it's like, what, I don't care. Like this, I have so much figured out in my life. Like with my wife, we've been together for as long as the band's been a band, so almost 10 years. And like I feel like so many people have to invest their energy into finding like a significant other. Dude, I've known
Oh.
her since I was a fucking teenager. Like, so it's like I don't have to worry about that. It's nice that I can focus and invest my time into stuff like this. And like, she's always like, dude, if you're gonna play video games anyway, do it. Do this.
Yes.
If you
Yeah.
can make money,
Might as well.
if you can make money doing this, and it's something that you love doing, then do it.
Right.
Granted, money isn't the end all be all here,
Oh,
but like
but there's no reason
I
not to.
well, I do want people to understand that like it is an investment of my time. So
Yeah.
if I'm here for 4 hours of my time a night, imagine if that was $12 an hour or something,
Right. Yeah.
minimal fucking, like I don't walk away from Twitch with a ton of money by any means, but literally everything that I get either goes to putting a roof over my wife's head,
Yeah.
or it goes right back into the channel.
Right.
So, like, and that's the cool thing for me too, is like I've just recently discovered that like with Twitch, there is so much content creation you can do. I don't want to do any YouTube or anything like that. Like I don't have the really the mental capacity to do something like that. But just like some of the stuff that you can do is just so beyond what I had expected when I
Wild
started.
stuff out there.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then I don't know, it's just it's cool just to see like TwitchCon and like PAX and stuff like that. Like that for me is like, dude, I just want to go so bad. I just want to see it all. Like I don't have like really any reason to be there other than to just like absorb it
Yeah.
and just like kind of take it all in. And I think it's just kind of cool to feel like inspired and like I don't know. I guess maybe with Moths, it's easy just to sit back and be like, fuck it. People listen to the band. We're gonna put out a record and people will jam it. And
Yeah.
like with this, I'll look and be like, damn it, I only had 14 viewers last night. Like, what can I do this next couple days to like really like bring it back and kind of just like spice it up. It's cool to feel like inspired when it comes to stuff like that and feel like I don't have it all figured out.
Yeah, you're
Like,
challenged by it.
yeah,
Yeah, that's cool. Especially, yeah, when you talk about having music kind of figured out in the way that, like, yeah, stuff happens in the band and whatnot, but you've been doing it so long that it's just like second nature. So somebody
yeah,
who's like as creatively driven as you, who gets to, and I think there's something powerful about your stream, and I think when you truly get to know somebody when you see them actually create instead of try to be the best at a game or try to perform. When you see somebody like do art like the way that you do, and you're like you'll go over something and you're like no, hold on, like that's not how I want this. Like it's just cool to see somebody's brain kind of go. So I can appreciate that a lot, and it's interesting to see your perspective on Twitch, considering like it's not your primary like money make. Everybody's out there shooting for Twitch to be their primary job. It feels
hmm
like here and there you see everybody trying to get partnered and trying to make their full-time money off of it. It's cool to see you take the approach of my numbers aren't great, so what can I do to bring it back? How can I inspire people, instead of defeating yourself all the time and feeling bummed out or feeling like this financial stress, like, oh, if I don't have this many viewers, I can't pay my rent. Which that's me. Like I pay my rent with Twitch. It's a nightmare. So
I definitely get the stress of it. I think especially the more that I want to invest my energy into it.
mhm.
Um, I guess that's kind of just like the thing with life is everything in moderation. If it gets
Yes.
to the point where I feel like it's unhealthy, and there's definitely been times, it's why I'll take 2 or 3 days off and just work on, stupid notification screens and stuff like that to separate myself from being consumed by like streaming, but I'm still investing my energy into bettering the channel or things like that. Like I think there's definitely times where I get distracted and I'm like, okay, I haven't been acknowledging like my wife enough. I've been in the office too much. Like I've been in the room too much. And like again, just I think just anything in moderation
Mhm.
that you do.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you have to like disconnect yourself and not like in moderation doesn't mean don't be invested
Sure. Yeah. It doesn't mean
emotionally
doesn't.
like
Yeah.
that kind of just means
No, I think it's like
don't abuse it.
yeah, or know when to cut yourself off when you're
Yeah,
like over investing.
yeah,
No, yeah, knowing when to detach, and I'm sure that's the same for music and tracking those numbers. And like I'm sure you don't just sit down, write a song, and like, all right, we nailed it, cool. Like going over lyrics or like going over this or that,
dude,
really
I've been writing
toiling.
lyrics for a 45-second part of a song since the beginning of April.
Yeah, yeah,
I,
exactly. Yeah,
I, I literally write like it takes me a long time to write.
yeah.
I feel like it just a lot of it. Like I know some of your questions are about it, so I won't get like too far off.
Nah,
But,
we'll figure it out.
like a lot of writing, just I feel like definitely for me comes from like a place of actual vulnerability versus like I'm gonna write this to sound cool.
Gonna sound
Like
edgy.
I write shit like edgy stuff sounds cool, and I really like to paint imagery that's like very dark and like ominous and
Works.
stuff like that. I think painting like for me like I like to like close my eyes and kind of like be like like immersed in color when I
Yes.
listen to a song. So I really try to capture like the aura that the song is releasing, and I like to write lyrics based around that. And sometimes for me it's more than just like writing lyrics. It's kind of just like it's like painting like a
Yeah.
very elaborate picture of just like I'm gonna do a little touch of this here, and then I'm gonna bring back these couple lyrics here to make you remember the first verse, and just like there's like weird things just that I've learned over the course of like writing with different producers and different. I mean, Moths has had 6 different members in and out.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of them being guitar players, so I've just seen a lot of different writing styles, and uh, going, kind of going linear with what we were talking about earlier, just kind of like adapting and
Yeah.
just evolving to what the band is. There'll be times where they hit me with a song and I'm just like,
Don't
but then
know.
I'll do vocals and it's like, yo, like that was sick.
That's
And
cool.
honestly, Sync was one of those songs where like
Really?
they did it on a whim, and I was like, oh, bro, like this sounds like the used. Like people are gonna be so mad. And then we went in and did the vocals, and it's like, yo, like this is rowdy. Like this is really cool. So
Yeah.
it's just, I don't know. So again, just going back, like I think just writing from a place of vulnerability keeps me going back to those lyrics for a month and be like, yo, I got to change this line because it's not where it needs to
It's
be.
not
It's like
hitting me
not
there
good
yet.
enough. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not like I'm not mad enough when I'm
That's
thinking about like delivering it in my head. Like I'm not. I don't know. Like I want to always be able to look back and be able to connect with that passion
sure.
to like what inspired me to write it, or if like we've been playing songs for 10 years. I hate it, but the songs still mean shit to me, especially when
Yeah.
when we lose a member every 2 years and I have to play "You Won't Be Missed." You better believe that first tour when we play "You Won't Be Missed," I'm like borderline crying when I play it because the song actually resonates with me
Yeah.
again. So it's like it's I don't know, it's just cool. It's like a big revolving door that keeps coming back
Yeah.
around. But I think the catch is just staying inspired, or you're gonna hate what you do 10 years later. You're gonna be like embarrassed, and you're gonna be like, oh, I don't like that, man. I don't like those lyrics. Like
Yeah.
there's time I don't
Yeah.
like bits of the content, but as
Yeah.
a whole, I'm very proud of everything that our band has
That's awesome. That's
accomplished.
so
So
cool. Yeah, man. And that's like, oh, I can't wait for some of these questions to round back to that. We're gonna roll it back a little bit here. And I want to just talk to you like really briefly. You don't have to go super in depth, but like you talk about being in music since you were like 15, like really young, which is kind of when I started picking up a camera and doing like the video work and all that stuff that got me here. But like, what got you to be in a band and then like stick with it and just decide that that was your life, like that's what you wanted? Was there anything specific outside of the fact that it was just you loved music?
I mean, I was like the kind of kid when I was like 14. Like I would like download shit on LimeWire. It was like All American
We all did.
Rejects and Sum 41 and
Yeah.
Simple Plan. And then like I was also at the same time listening to like the Now CDs. But so simultaneously I was like when I was a kid in high school, I was like huge on volunteering. And this one summer I put in like 400 hours of volunteer service. It was like I worked for like a daycare at the Y, so I was trying to get like just like college shit.
Okay.
So I ended up not going to college, but so one of my best friends, this was called Leaders Group,
Mhm.
and one of my best friends, his name was Joe. He was in it, and every summer we would go away like on a like little retreat, and it'd be like um just like people from everywhere, just like everywhere, and they would all gather at this college up in northern Ohio. And like I remember he and I were rooming together, and he put on the Used.
Mhm.
Ironic, that's like probably one of the most pivotal bands for me. Their first track, I don't remember what the track's called, but it just starts with like 20 seconds of screaming.
Mhm.
And he's like, yo, check this out. And he plays it and he just starts screaming, and I'm just like, what the are you doing, dude? Like, what is this? And then like so he ended up like burning me a couple CDs. It was like just like Under Oath and just like stuff like that. And we would like just like ride around in his car, and we would just like scream and sing. And like I met some kids in high school. Um they were in a band and they just like needed a screamer, we'll call it.
Yeah,
And
quote unquote. Yeah.
yeah, it was kind of just like happened from there. Like we just like started as a local band and then we started like doing weekends. And then through that I met the dudes in my first band. They were called Emerosa.
Hmm.
Like we had done some weekends in Kentucky and just like I got along with those dudes really well and they were in the studio and they'd hit me up and they were like, "Yo, our singer's not cutting it. Do you want to come do this record?"
Yeah.
I hadn't written anything. I'd never recorded legitimately. So I went in, wrote that first Emerosa EP, joined the band, was in the band for I don't know, a couple months. We got signed to Rise. I was at that point 17, a senior in high
Ah,
school. So that was all kind of like within a 2 year period, starting the band, the local band. And, you know, we did like the whole like local grind of playing local shows and stuff like that.
garage.
But this like the Cliff Note version, you know, and then, um, so yeah, April of my senior year, we did our first tour
Mhm.
and I dropped out to do it. I was 2 credits away from
Oh,
graduating.
yeah.
So looking back, I feel a little stupid for doing that, but I still have a beautiful career. So
Yeah.
I
No,
feel very
absolutely.
like it hasn't
It panned out.
like yeah, it you know, it is what it is. So I was in that band, did one EP. They kicked me out. They were like evolving. I mean, if you listen to Amorosa now, you know they were going towards more of like some shit that I couldn't do at the time.
Yeah.
So I hit up the dudes that I was in a local band with first, and I was like, "Yo, do you guys want to start another band?"
Yeah.
And they were like, "Hell yeah!" We started a Graceful. We got signed to Sumerian. I think just kind of like based on computer keeps going to sleep, based on you just like you know history and
Yeah.
just like being in the scene and stuff like that. And then that band didn't like have the best career. We were like a you know quote unquote Christian like
Mm.
hardcore band,
Sure.
metalcore band,
Yeah.
whatever you want to you know classify the genre as. And then yeah, I've talked about it in other situations, but like long story short, we went in to have a meeting with Sumerian, who was the label that signed to Graceful, and we wanted to do a second record, but in order to do a second record, they wanted to hear demos.
Mm. Okay.
And so we were like, "Yo, can you give us money for demos?" Like we can't.
Yeah.
We were between 17 and 19 years old at that time,
Right.
like touring like 6 months out of the year, 7 months out of the year for like $200 a night,
Right.
like
Like barely cutting
nothing.
it. Yeah.
And they were like, "Yo, like your band sucks live. Your band is not good. We're not going to spend any more money." So the dude who was managing us at the time, like I was really close with him and his wife. His name was Stuart. A lot like he was pretty much just like, "Yo, if you want to have any career, leave. Like stop what you're doing right now, and I'll help you start another band.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have no problem doing it." And so I'd known a couple of the dudes in Moths just from playing local shows, and I hit them up. I was like, "Yo, do you guys want to start another band?" And you know, we started Moths a couple years or a couple months in. Stuart passed away, so we were kind of like blindly like at that point. It was just like, dude, I literally just gave up everything,
Yeah. To. Mm.
and like I had run a company with his wife and shit. I did like a clothing line and um we tried to run it together for like 3 months after that. She's just like, I can't do it anymore. You know, like it's just too hard. And yeah, it was like I guess from then on, it just kept me inspired. Like I never really wanted to like down, and then you know, Moths just kind of kept going, and it was something that worked. There was like a weird, you know, weird stigma early on that like I was like a band hopper, and we won't make it
Oh,
past album one because I've only ever made it through one record of these band cycles, and it's like, you know, never mind the fact that I was 17 to 19 years
right.
old.
That you were still a
Right?
kid, right?
You know, like I hadn't even like fully developed as a human. Like I hadn't even fully grown yet.
Yeah.
So it was like you know, you can't expect me to have the mental capacity of some of the dudes that I guess were a little older doing the same. But yeah, then, you know, like we got signed by Rise. It was kind of like a weird, like, yeah, we knew you from Amarosa, let's get this going. And
Yeah.
I don't know, you know, it was cool. It was a very like bad time.
Yeah.
Uh like looking back, and you know, there's a lot of times where people are like, yo man, I fucking love a Graceful. It's like, dude, shut up. I
Yeah.
don't care.
Yeah.
Like don't don't bother addressing what I've been doing for the last 10 years. You just want to bring up old shit. But this year I set out as a resolution just to appreciate the journey. I
Yes.
have I value anybody who's taken the time out of their life
To
that
ever.
they'll never get back to listen to my voice, to the shit that I've written. So if I can do anything that resonates with anybody, like if it's been band one, band two, or band three, it's just like so be it. I think that's the goal. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I I think we forget as creators that just because you make something doesn't mean that everybody has to like it.
Yeah. Including you at some point,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
and I think there's a lot. I've definitely been in a spot where like somebody's been like, I used to play different games on Twitch and be a different person, and somebody's like, "Yo, I like when you used to do that," and I would take that as if they said that they don't like what I'm doing now, instead of,
Yeah.
you know what I mean. And so in our head, we get in our heads about a lot of that stuff. So I can definitely
That's my biggest problem as a
get that.
human now.
Yeah.
I think for me, my motto has just been like, just say less. Like there's kids
Yeah.
who will come out and they'll be like, I never fucked with you guys before, man. I hated you guys. And it's like, can you not just say like I really enjoy the record? You have to like validate it. You have to validate your opinion
Yeah.
and how you feel by at first belittling
Mm-hmm.
me and my my creative, and then you're gonna back it up with a compliment so you think it's okay. And like
Yeah. Yeah.
again, I think that's just human condition. That's how people are. Like if you weren't part of something before, you really want people to know, yo, I wasn't like for me, it's like I never watched Game of Thrones before, but if I started, I'd probably be the type of dude that's like, I never watched this stuff before, but this episode is so good. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's why millions of people
We're
watch
watching.
it
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
not saying that our band holds the same value, but I
It
think
makes
for
sense.
me that's something that was really hard for me to detach from, and it still is
Yeah.
because we sonically changed a lot. We were
Oh yeah.
very heavy, and then I mean I still think we're heavy, but again that's a subjective thing,
Yeah.
and I don't know. It's just it's hard. I think especially when the demographic tends to stay the same age. I'm getting
Yes.
older, so my patience level
It's a little thinner, right?
changes. Yeah. But obviously how I view the world
I think that's
changes
the
as
big thing.
well. So I feel like sometimes it should just be common thought, you know, maybe not to say things like that.
Yeah.
But
I doing what I do resonate with that, because there's so many times that, I always have to stop before I say anything, because someone, will get that where it's like, it's meant to be a compliment. I know what you mean, but man, whatever just came out of your mouth was a train wreck,
yeah.
You get that a lot. And I've definitely had to be in that spot where I have to be like, I know that you didn't mean to be the way that you are right now, so I'm going to take and say thank you, but it does require this like elevated level of patience with people, because again, like what you said, the demographic stays the same, right? So like
Yeah.
I've been streaming for 3 years, and there we get some like much older people, and we get some much younger people, but my community is very much full of 16-year-olds, and I'm like, I have to almost like teach them how to speak a lot of the time and be
Yeah.
like, you can't just say that. You hold on, like let me tell you how that sounded. And so I have to be patient, because I don't think people mean to be that way, but what you said is super true. Is people almost have to like tell their journey about like, oh, I hated your band before, but this record is the record that got me here, and they mean well by that. It's a compliment somewhere, but they didn't know any better. But
we say backhanded compliments, but
yeah,
I think it's just a little
it's a little
like
more than that.
just say
Say less. Yeah.
less. Like
Just cut to the
it's
chase. Yeah.
yeah, you know, it's really like I think you kind of have to elaborate if that's your motto. Just what you
You
know,
do.
say
Yeah. Oh yeah.
less.
You have to
But
explain what you mean, of course.
I say that to my wife all the time, not at her, but it's just like if they would just say less. Like you know, going back to like a situation at the beginning of tour or the end of tour, I'd never tour managed the band. That was our old drummer's job, and
Mhm.
he left, so I picked up the duties, just trying to help out, and that means doing the finances. So
Yeah.
when I sent in the road report, our accountant is like, and I'm paraphrasing. He's pretty much just like, "Yo, you're an absolute idiot for ever thinking that this would fly and that I could pay you from this." So for like 3 days, I'm just like, "Yo, like, just say less, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
Come
just
on,
you
man.
could have just been like, yo, like." I need you to redo this, but he's like, yo, like it was like the fact that you think you can do this with not having this done is crazy, like, or is idiotic, and it was just like, I was just like, bro, like,
Yeah.
oh my god. But you know that for me, there's certain situations where I just bit my lip. I was like, all right,
Yeah.
I'll just suck it up. I'm gonna do what needs done, but that was my most recent. Just
Say less
say
moment.
less, man.
I'm gonna text you the next time I have a say less moment. We're just gonna go, we're gonna go over
Just
it,
say
dude.
less, dude.
That's
Oh.
yeah, I definitely get it. So we're gonna dive into the music a little bit just briefly, and throughout here you won't hear it, of course, but I'm gonna cut in some of the tracks for anybody who's unfamiliar.
Cool.
But the biggest thing that hits me, obviously your music resonates with me. Some of the older stuff, and then a lot of the newer stuff lyrically. But a lot of it seems to stem from obviously a super personal place. A lot of your lyrics elevated me personally from like a place of like self-loathing or hatred or like beating myself up. And not that the lyrics like were like, teaching me to like love myself, but a lot of the lyrics validated how I felt. And I think that's really a powerful tool. So like Nowhere Left to Sink, and even like New Plagues, obviously I have talked to you 1,000 times about Plagues and like what that song means to me, are definitely the most cathartic, and we'll probably roll Nowhere Left to Sink. And some of the sample lyrics I'll read off and then people can hear them in the track is, it's getting harder to see the forest from the trees. What I can't avoid keeps coming back to me, complacent while I kill these empty thoughts, stuck in a place that I swore that I forgot. To me, that is such a, I don't know, man, like it's a wake-up call in a lot of ways for me personally and for a lot of people. And I know that obviously bands usually kind of come together about lyrics, but what's that process look like when you look at, do your lyrics come from a place of self-loathing, bad breakups, obviously like bandmate troubles? I know that to be true in a lot of those scenarios. Or at least it resonates with that stuff. But do all of the lyrics come for that? Are there ever, and you kind of covered it when you talk about wanting to go back to those lyrics and really feel them, 5 years later or whatever. Are there ever any songs that have been put together that didn't come from this emotional place? Because I feel like they all do to some degree.
I think they all just kind of stem from like a different state of vulnerability. Like, I guess anybody that knows me knows that I'm like an advocate for not thinking our third record is a representation of the band. So we don't play it, we don't talk about it, we
Sure.
don't sweep it under the rug.
Mm-hmm.
Like someone had like pointed out, a lot of the lyrical content is like very self-deprecating. It's very like self-loathing, but not in a healthy way. It's just like
Right.
very I
Morbid
wouldn't
in a
say
way, kind of.
yeah, yeah. I wouldn't say necessarily harmful, but
Yeah.
I think I wasn't in the right spot. So Aside from that, for me, everything is kind of like it's weird how the universe works. Just like
Mm,
shit will happen right when it needs to. And it's like, so when we, like, right before we were doing our second record, we had just lost a member. We did lost a member right before the first record. We were going through like or either that or like management troubles, and it's
sure.
just like stuff that like really kept me fueled. And then the third record was like when like my wife got sick, my grandpa died on my birthday while I was on tour. My
Ooh,
grandma died a month later after that while I was on tour. Like,
yeah,
and then I had to go in and write a record 2 months after that.
right.
Like,
Still like
in
carrying that.
sharing a hotel room with a dude that I absolutely hated in the band. Like, and it was just like, and not, it was like a very unhealthy place for all of us to be in, going back. That's kind of why, I was saying there was times where the band, we didn't know if the band would stay a band.
Sure.
Like there were more conversations of like, yo, like I'm done than there were like, let's go, this is cool. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
So I think then the new record, it was really important for me to kind of just like pull myself out. Like we've been getting shafted by the label. I use that term very loosely. I don't want anybody to think that our label was taking good care of us. I think when money's involved, especially so much money, it's really easy to see financial gain versus, okay, this dude's been on the label for 10 years. We owe him this.
sure.
Like, and sometimes I do feel like there's some seniority when we were loyal. We never stepped out, we just kept releasing records and touring and doing whatever we needed to do.
Hmm.
Um, but I think it was just important to be inspired again.
Yeah.
Like we had gone through again a member change, and we brought in two new dudes that um, were fans of the band prior to the band being a band, so they kind of had their own take on
Yeah.
how things should sound. And I think it was just kind of like time to take the reins back, and that just meant getting back in touch with kind of just what kept me going. And I think that's why the lyrical content got back on track
Hmm.
versus it being like, again, um I think just it's important to stay vulnerable
Yeah. Yeah.
in all things that you do. I think it's very important if you're passionate about something to wear it in your front, to wear it and be proud about it, and not like, I don't know. I feel like it's easy to like create this weird perception for yourself and be like this cool guy and be like the man, that guy's so cool. But it's way different to have someone be like, that dude is real.
Yes.
And
Hmm.
10 times out of 10, I would much rather have someone come up to me and be like, yo, dude, you're real as fuck, versus like, you are so cool, man. Like,
Yeah.
I want to be both, obviously, but like,
If you
I
had to
want to,
pick, right?
yeah, I want to provide insight for somebody that they can use to do better for their lives. Like, but music was so important for me growing up. Like, 99% would not be here if it wasn't for music.
Sure.
Like, um, when I was 15, I tried to take my life, and when I was 12, I tried to take my life. And if it wasn't for music, I 1,000,000% would be gone. Like, it's crazy that, and I think that's for me why I can't not do music. It's like there's been times where the band's getting paid $250 a tour individually. Like I'm doing 40 days a tour and I'm getting $200, and I still do it. My wife still lets me do it. It's just like there's so much that I can't like let go. And it might be like chasing that like sense of euphoria that we were talking about, but for me it's the the place where I've felt the most sense of belonging
Yeah.
outside of Twitch, and that's why I think I love Twitch so much because we're all the same, like not to like belittle anybody, but it seems like we're just a bunch of misfits that grew
Yeah.
up in this culture of video games being super important and toys and mo- cartoons and comics, and instead of that emotion having to be suppressed, we can embrace it and be like, yo, this is who I am. I collect friggin' toys. I sit and play video games for 8 hours a day. Like I feel like if I were to come out and said that, 5 years ago, people would be like, yo, dude, I'm not listening to your band anymore. You're a fucking nerd. Like, but
Yeah.
it's just like, I don't know, like as I've gotten older, I'm just like, I am embracing that the culture's changing. And
Mhm.
then, like people were like, oh, we're getting old. This is so sad. And it was like, we're getting to relive all this nostalgia where they're
Yeah.
never gonna like we're living in the best generation right now because we're allowed to do stuff like this.
Mhm.
Where I can sit and have, an hour or 2 hour long conversation with you just because we've got cool computer
Yeah.
setups
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
mics and just like, it's just like it's just cool, man. It's just cool how almost like the two are just very linear.
Yeah.
Like I think just sorry, without getting just like too far off, it's just like they both have provided that sense of belonging that I think in itself is sometimes more inspiring than creating. When you show up and there's people that come in and they're like dropping your inside jokes and they're
Uh-huh.
it's like, oh dude, I saw you 3 weeks ago in Ohio, like I was too shy to come say what's up. It's just like it's just cool to see that and to be able to provide more of myself for other people because
Yeah.
there's people that I looked up to when I was a kid where if I could see that dude just being real, I probably would have changed my life.
Yeah.
Like, so
Do you ever think, and this is like not scripted at all as a question, but do you ever think that because music saved your life, do you think that you're not like repaying a debt, but like trying to do that for other people? Like, so maybe not subconsciously, maybe consciously, but I know for me, like at 16, I every day that I'm streaming on Twitch, I'm trying to provide a community that when I was 16, like couldn't exist. The internet wasn't a thing when I tried to take my life. So, I try to maybe hone that sense of belonging or maybe pay back or pay it forward even. Do you think that that's the attachment to music is obviously the love, the passion, but it was there for you when nothing else was. Do you think that there's a tie there in a way?
I think so. I think it's just like I come from like a split home. Parents been divorced forever. So in that time I was dealing with like my dad being like, "Yo, you have to live here." My mom being like, "Yo, I've got to live here." And just like, dealing with that, plus being like the weird kid at school, and just like, I think when I found music, it was just so like it was so pivotal for me. It was like I said, like people stay chasing that feeling, like that feeling's never left me.
Yeah.
I still get butterflies before I walk on stage. I still get nervous. Like I get the anxious peas. I'll pee 5 times before in a 15-minute span before we go on stage. Like there's times where I get choked up and emotional when we play songs that are 10 years old. Like that has just never left me. And I
Yeah.
think like I do think as I've gotten I wouldn't say like established, just like maintained
Yeah.
as I've maintained like the stature that I hold myself at, I think people understand that. And I do think that I think that's why people like the band because they know if you've had a bad week, and you're seeing us on Saturday and it's
Yeah.
Monday. On that Saturday, you better believe you're going to get your money's worth. You're going to get your
Yeah.
money's worth. You're going to get your week's worth. You're going to get your month's worth. Like, that's just something that's like, again, this just never left me of just feeling like, I guess I just feel like we have to provide a service.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
investing your time in, touching again on just like appreciating the journey is you've invested your energy, you've made this possible. You're the reason I have a home.
yeah.
I want that say I want that energy to be reciprocated from my end. I don't ever want people to think that they're coming to buy a product. Yes, you're buying a product, but I am so proud of that product that I've done everything of I've crafted it all by hand.
Hmm.
The t-shirts you're buying, I look through internet catalogs, wholesale sites, the designs I'm doing, I'm physically ordering them. I'm stocking the shirts. I'm selling you the t-shirts. Like
Yeah.
we're playing all real music, nothing is digital. We rarely track anything. Like for us, it's just important to just be as real as possible. And I think like I'd take a career in maintaining that
Yeah.
any day over having like a huge 15 minutes of
Of fame.
fame. Yeah.
That big explosion, yeah, that we talked
Yeah.
about. Yeah, and
So,
I think there's something to be said about, I think that's what drew me to you guys originally was, obviously I went with Gibson. Shout out to Gibson. And
hey,
and I had no clue. Like I had heard of you guys, but I couldn't say if I'd ever heard a track. And he was like, "You want to go?" And I was like, "Okay." And we went, and not only did you guys put on like a great show, but to see you, everyone's packing up, it's done, you come through the building, and then you want to see people in the back and physically hand them merchandise that I now know that you created. Like I agree with the providing a service because it's not manufactured. It's music, for just like for you, has saved so many people. Your music is no exception to that. But it's for you, it's more than that. It's an experience. It's solidarity, and I don't know about like friendship, but like people knowing that like what you are producing is something that is so heartfelt and meaningful. I think also just really plays into that. And I think that's why your Twitch is so important, that people can see you just chilling, like hair up, 14 Mountain Dews later, like going on this, drawing. And there's something about, people crave that like weird behind the scenes. That's why vlogs on YouTube are such a big deal. Somebody like, "Hey guys, what's up? I'm like literally walking into Whole Foods." Like it's, people love that stuff, and Twitch
yeah.
is, Twitch is like that. And it's I know for me, being able to support your Twitch or to hear some of the hellacious things you've said while playing Resident Evil, and the clip I'm talking about,
Yeah.
so just to see the man behind it all, yeah, is, I think that that's so cool, and that you try to stick to that. And this isn't on anybody who doesn't or whatever. Live your life how you want to, but it's. I think that's what resonates with so many people, is that humanity that you try to carry through like everything you do. The last question I have, well, it's not really the last question, but obviously you're a Twitch broadcaster. We keep going back to that. But what parallels can you draw between broadcasting and music in regards to like comparison, over analysis, the numbers game, right? You and I have had this talk so much about how like what you're going through in terms of bands, or comparing yourself to this band or that band, and this many tracks played or whatever. There's a lot of comparison there. Do you have any insight for how to like shed some of that, and maybe even work through it or push through it?
I think they're the exact same world,
Yeah.
just different, just two different things. It's
Different
like I
mediums.
was saying, it's like this for me is like starting a local band and playing
Mhm.
garage shows. And like that host was that night where we play that big festival in the
Yeah.
city, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Right.
it's I think you just have to treat it as, if you're inspired to grow, then grow. But
Yeah.
if you're gonna focus on, I mean, dude, I looked back all of last year, I averaged until like I think I started doing art like right around the time when we like started to like talk. So this was like late last year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And dude, I was averaging like 9 to 12
Yeah.
viewers. But dude, I've sold 150,000 records. It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
I have songs with millions of streams. Like I would look at that and be like, fuck, do people not like me? Like,
Hmm.
do people not like how I am? They just like the music. They just like, but then, you forget that, like, if you were to start a band right now, you could be better than Moths, 100%. But Moths is still going to get more
Yeah.
plays than you because people know who our band is.
Yeah.
So it's like, especially, I guess when you see dudes like Ninja or Tim the Tap Man, and it's just like, dude, those dudes get more views in one night than I'll get in 10 years of streaming. It's
Yeah.
just like, you have to separate yourself from a lot of, I think, everything's a numbers game. I was just talking to my dad about it. He's like, "How's everything going?" I was like, "Well, better now that I got the, final road report done." He's like, "When do you guys get paid?" I was like, "We got paid Wednesday." And he's like, "Oh, that's good. You be good for a while." And I was like, "Yeah, just got to pay the bills now." And he's like, "It's a never-ending cycle." It's like you work to pay bills, so you're working for money that's already spoken for,
Yeah.
in certain it's like everything is a numbers game. But we look at it, it happens with the band. It's like, dude, we put out our newest record and it sold half of what our best selling record sold, but it's been streamed more than any record we've put out.
Yeah.
It's like you have to be able to measure your success in different ways outside of like the numerical value.
Hmm.
So again, like the fact that something that I did on the new record, one of our more controversial records as far as being how it
Different.
sonically sounded,
Yeah.
old fans were like, the new ones were like, "Oh my god, I love you guys." So it was
It's me. Yeah.
it's a weird trade, but knowing that it made an impact with you is again, it's like a snowball effect that makes it I don't know, to where you can separate from that. It's like, okay, maybe the record sell as well, but it's doing more for people. I'm seeing more people come out.
Yeah.
We're selling better than we've ever sold. It's like you just have to look at it all differently.
Yeah.
Like, so for me, going back to like the Twitch thing, all last year I had 9 viewers. Still like I'd be cool to hit partner, but I'm still sitting at 20 to 30, good night 50, 60. But then I look back in a year growth, I doubled.
Yeah.
Just 'cause you got to start somewhere. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And it's obviously different for me because I have a platform and it's a little easier for me to reach the maybe one or two random kids that had never heard of me being on Twitch or that don't even know what Twitch is, or it's a little different than you know Jake that lives in Omaha, Nebraska with 30 followers on the internet that's trying to stream and like master the craft and be a creative. But I think the whole moral of this conversation, at least from my end, is genuinity. If you're genuine with what you do, that will shine.
Yeah.
That's why pop music, artists are having to put out 6, 7, 8 singles every 6 months. It's because there's no substance there. It's so oversaturated with content that people aren't actually like absorbing the content.
Yeah. Yep.
Versus like, you know, like I'd much rather put out a record, i.e., Dark Divine,
Yeah.
and it not pop right away, but it organically grow to the point where people are like, fuck, I can't believe I wrote this off. I can't believe I didn't listen to this sooner. Or, like I think it's just, it's all things are pretty subjective, but I think if you can just be genuine with what you do, and that's anything outside of Twitch, that's outside of being creative. Like, I think with art, like even when I was doing art just for financial gain, it was so rough for me, and I feel like people knew that I was just churning out a product versus doing, you know, couple sets of prints a month,
Yeah.
and it's like I don't really do stuff like this. So people know that I'm going and investing my energy and time into it and actually like working to
Yeah.
master the craft. I noticed a huge uh like influx in my sales.
Hmm.
I noticed more people like I was seeing like more returning names in the shop
Yeah.
and like I think that that just is something that you can actually really work into just like your everyday life is doing everything the best that you can. Sounds very cliche, but like for me, I was a huge Christian growing up. I would pray about everything that would go wrong, and there was like this thing, um, just like kind of popped in my head. It just happened to where I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just start handling my problems myself.
Yeah.
And when I did that, it kind of like that old thought process went out the window, and I was able to actually see a lot of benefit in my own life. Just kind of like I don't know. I got like a little off topic, but
No, you're good.
just
You're good.
just like that was just like a pretty important like pivotal thing for me in changing just like my thought processes. It just seemed more genuine. I wasn't waiting for some miracle sign to show me what to do. It was kind of just like, yo, if this thing needs done, I'm gonna do
Yeah.
it and do the best that I can to work myself out, out of this problem. And yeah, I think you can just like really work that into just like a sense of normalcy for you to where it won't feel like, sometimes doing things that for the genuine way feels longer. Feels like,
It's
if
always
there's a
longer.
circle,
Yeah.
if there's a circle, you could go straight through it and do the backwards ass way, but you got to go all the way around.
It's that
Like,
slow burn.
yeah, so it's that is, I think, where you see the most reward long term as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, so, um, yeah, again, going back to your question, the two are linear. They're
Hmm.
just different parallels. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're the exact same.
Yep.
They're like every night we're showing up to a show in a different city. You're showing up every night, well, you do day streams. So you're showing up every day. You're dressed up. You're putting on a show.
Hmm.
You make sure your office and shit's clean. You got your backdrop. You got your shit. Like, it's the exact same. You're trying to build your brand. I'm trying to build my brand just like I try to build the band's brand
Hmm.
in the music world. So they are very similar, but I think if you can disconnect from like a number game and have like small milestones. So for me at the beginning of the year, I set out to have 2,000 followers and 20,000 total channel views,
Yep.
which seemed kind of impossible at the time, but now the channel's at like 18,000
Yeah.
channel views or something, and we're at like 1,600 followers.
Yeah.
So
You're crushing it.
the goals were very small, but I think you set goals for yourself, and it's like, yeah, like my wife, she's not smoking for 4 months,
Hmm.
and it's really hard. But her friend sent her, like she has to for health reasons, so
Sure. Sure. Sure.
it's her friend sent her a package, and every Friday it's like 16 packages or something. So every Friday she gets to open something, and it's just kind
Yeah.
of like her like
Cool.
reward for getting through,
Yeah.
the time. And
Yeah. Little
um,
milestones, little flags to
yeah,
always be
it's just
working
like
towards.
in the grand scheme of things, like 16 weeks of not doing something that you do all the time is a
It's tough.
long time.
Yeah.
So if she can get to those small milestones to where it's like, okay, we're getting there. You know what I mean? It's not all bad. So
Sure. Yeah.
I think I think like a lot of this stuff I've said just kind of was like echoing things that I've just said earlier. But if you're passionate about something, people will see it.
Yeah, it
Like
may take a lot of
that's
time.
why bands like Bring Me do well, because they're sonically changing. Every album
Yeah.
is different and they're evolving to a whole new demographic, but there's like these huge pools of fans that keep following them
Hmm.
because what they're doing is actually very genuine, and you can tell just how the songs are
Yeah.
like composed. I don't know, it's just
Yeah.
stuff like that's inspiring to see. So
Yeah.
even then you can find like you, I watch you and Gibbs, and it's like very inspiring to me. I can see how I can grow as an individual, like
Sure. Yeah.
in how I can grow, like my channel, how I can, see how you interact with people or see how they interact with people, and it's like, oh, that's pretty similar to how I am as a dude. I can like, it's kind of like an icebreaker or things like that. Like, like you can find ways to be inspired and not be so focused on
The numbers.
the numbers. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I think the thing that you said that was that me and a very good friend of mine, we've been kind of preaching to the world right now is just always like, sure, with streaming or music or whatever it is, like if you want it to be your career, there's nothing wrong with that. But like having an underlying reason as to why you're doing it, always helps you to break away from that numbers game or that analytical game. For me, it's our stream hasn't been like growing, my broadcast, but I still spend a lot of my time trying to mentally and emotionally help people through whatever they're going through. And that's the thing that, like, if the numbers are staying the same, that's the thing that makes it worth it, right? So that's constantly what I'm chasing. And I think, for you, it's the same thing when you talk about people coming up to you and depending on how they phrase it, of course, telling their story and being genuine with you, and that's the payoff. And you always talk about having that emotional resonance with what you produce, and like, ultimately knowing that it helps people is like the huge payoff, even though we all do get caught up in the numbers and the growth and the comparisons. So um
It's
but
really easy, I think, but that goes way deeper than
oh yeah,
just
it's
Twitch. That's
societal. Yeah.
just, yeah, that's just like again,
Yeah.
just human condition at this point.
Yes. Yeah.
We're shown more of we need what we need to have than what we actually need to have.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
why I
Yeah.
have a whole wall of toys. Like,
Fair.
so
It's fair. Need.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
the last question to round it out is, obviously you've been to a really dark place when you were much younger. I still go there sometimes. I was there last year. What would you tell? And this is the cliche question, but I think this is the powerful one. Is what would you tell kids who are struggling with their own mortality, feeling helpless, feeling hopeless, whether that's in depression or suicide, or like they're trapped in a bad situation or whatever? I don't know. Do you have any like advice? You don't have to be a shaman monk here and like give us this prolific statement, but I don't know, from personal experience, is there anything that you would tell anybody who's in a spot where they just feel like it's hopeless?
Um, I mean, yeah, I think like even just like maybe just like a normie that doesn't know me would look and be like, yo, like you got like it all. Like why even like be stressed or
Yeah,
depressed?
it's the Chester Bennington thing, right?
I think exactly. I think that's the thing that people tend to forget is like depression is something that I think maintains but can stay very dormant until something happens when you're in that, it's 3 in the morning and I see a photo of my old dog. It's like,
Yeah,
oh wow, I'm
yeah,
gonna spend the next 4 hours crying. Like,
yeah,
so it's like those things are always there, even for people that like you wouldn't expect.
hmm
Like
yeah,
you kind of like guide people into like a more positive light. You were very, like, again, you were very pivotal for me and my thought process and how I am to this day. And you deal with that, you're guiding people, and it's something that you deal with internally. So it's like I guarantee that everybody is going through it to a certain extent, and that's not to belittle anybody's situation, but like I think that holds true to the testament of like you're not alone. Like, and that's I think where it, excuse me, tends to become like a little cliche because everybody says that, but I think in certain situations you just that needs to be something that you reiterate,
Yeah.
something that you need to like make those people understand is that like even like for me I was dealing with this like I don't know like last week when I was the story with like our accountant or whatever
Mhm.
that was for me like she's like dude I just spent 45 days doing work for other people. I've been home for 4 days.
Yeah.
Like I have barely even seen my wife. Like it was just like one of those nights where I just like I text my buddy. I was like, dude, do you ever have nights where it's just like things are like you're just done? And then he was just like, yeah, man. Like I was just dealing with this like, like a couple months ago. And it's like, that for me is kind of just like I wasn't at a point of, feeling like violent towards myself, but having somebody who was there being like, yo, dude, like you're good. Like I'm dealing with it too, just on a
Yeah.
different scale. I think um everyone's kind of dealing with the same shit, just in different parallels and different like everything again, I hate to keep to it. It's everything is like subjective. And I think sometimes you can take an outsider's perspective and kind of view it from the outside looking in
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
kind of see that it's not so bad. And for me, that I feel like that's easy. Like I have a cool career. I stream on the side. I have a awesome wife and a house, and you know like other people don't have those same luxuries. But like I said, there were two instances in my life when I was a kid, not even fully developed mentally or socially or emotionally or physically or anything, and I tried to take my life, and I'm here double that time.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
15 and 12. I've doubled my life expectancy
Mhm.
after those situations. Like I shouldn't be here, and I'm here. And I think that's like a testament for just like you actually being able to like push through. Like these aren't things that I'll really talk to like anybody about. Like barely talk to my wife about it sometimes. Like sometimes it doesn't need to be addressed, but at the same point, I think it is why I do feel a calling towards helping people that need like I think some people just need guidance, and you
Yeah.
you see that in your channel wholeheartedly coming in and like maybe things are said that for me I wouldn't know how to handle that, and you handle it like a freaking ace, man. It's just like without skipping a beat, and for me I feel like I would see that and be like, oh man, uh, I
Yeah.
don't know how to help you.
Yeah.
People have messaged stuff like that behind the scenes, and it's like even then I don't know
Yeah.
how to like provide a better vibe for somebody entirely like. So it's just I don't know. It's like all these things are subjective, but I think if you can understand that like someone is also probably going through the exact same thing you're going through, just in a different aspect of their life, it
Yeah.
makes it a lot easier. Like I wear this bracelet. It's a guy. He might have MS,
Mhm.
but he goes to shows and he has these bracelets and he runs like an organization. It's called Constantly Positive.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I wear two bracelets a day, and this is one of those things. And there's times where I mean, even like again, going back to the account thing, just because that was like the most recent like blow up in my life, I look at that and it's just like 2018 me would have written that dude back and been like, yo, you are fired.
Yeah.
Get out. But I text our manager and I'm like, dude, am I out of line for thinking that was a little mean? He was like, No, dude, not at all. So I just like bit my tongue, kept in like a fairly decent headspace with it, got the work done. Week later, our accountant hits up our manager being like, yo, this road report is sick. Like he killed it on this. So it's like, okay, like it was like a little redemption. But for me,
Yeah.
being able to have like little, again, it's just like little like reminders or little like milestones of being like, okay, I looked at that and I changed how, in a year's time, I changed how I handled a situation,
Yep.
how I would have handled myself, and probably actually embarrassed myself and my business and my company.
Yeah.
So it was like, something where, yeah, it's just like a small reminder, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I agree with that. And I definitely agree with the idea that, I think everybody's got their superpowers, especially when it comes to helping others. Like I'm good at like ingesting and then like, giving advice and support, but I'm not about to go write a track that's going to be played, a million times to get people through a breakup or their tough point. So it's, your superpower is different than mine, and I think that's appreciated in its own facet. I think the biggest thing that we see in today's society is, we have social media and we have all this stuff, but so many people think that they're completely alone in their depression, their anxiety, their autism, even, all these, especially with people that are, transgendered and are, scared to be who they are, and want to end their life because in their town they might get, shot or stabbed for who
yeah,
they are. Stuff, it's just, it's so tough to be out there. But I think knowing that you're not alone, and really, you went back to this so much earlier and I loved it, is that vulnerability of like, that's why I think there are people like you with your music, and people like me on Twitch, and people that write books and whatever, like, have to exist to give like hope to people that are struggling. Because like you and I are both living proof of, I was 16, like I sat in front of a toilet with a stomach full of pills, like it felt like I was there for 10 minutes. I was there for 45 seconds before I made myself throw up. But I'm still here now. Like that's what it's about, is something made me want to stay somehow, right? And so it can get better. It took me 10 years to get to a point to where I've accepted my past and grown so much as a person. And I would say the same as, same with you. Even you're still growing, and I think that's important as well. 2018 to 2019, you talked about how you would have maybe popped off a little bit last year.
mm-hmm.
I same thing. Last year I was still very much a different person. So it does, and it can get better. I know resources are hard to find in the United States. There's wait lists in the UK and in Canada. It's not easy to get help, but I think there's a lot that could be said about music and about Twitch and content on YouTube, and finding friendship until you get that professional help if you can get it. So
I do think that there's a lot more accessible to us from
than what
like
it used to be.
an entertainment standpoint,
Yeah.
I guess solely because like again the like there's times when you feel bad and like a song can like hit you in the wrong place, but there's also times when you feel bad and you can turn on your favorite TV show or your favorite cartoon
Yeah.
or your favorite streamer. Like there are people that like you can confide in to kind of like provide a sense of belonging outside of like being codependent on somebody else.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like, you can, like I look forward to when I see, oh, Goop's on. I got the Twitch notification. I want to pop in. I'm going to lurk for a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
there are other people who, when I see that they're on, it's like, oh shit, I'm going to drop what I'm doing because this dude makes me laugh.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like, you can find different comfort in not, it might not be what you need, like,
It's not the
if,
professional.
yeah, like if someone's dealing with like, like father issues. Obviously, you can't be a fatherly figure for somebody, but you can provide. I mean, you are a dad, but like a
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a
Yeah. I can't be their dad.
yeah, like you can provide insight and you can provide like a sense of like belonging. Like I think
Yeah.
that's on just like we'll say just like consumer because they're consuming the entertainment. That's on them to understand again in moderation. Like
Yeah.
so if you listen to my band, I am 100% down to help you through any mental, trauma you might have, or any emotional, shortcomings that happen in your life. But I think there is a fine line of letting someone know and then making someone feel vulnerable for uh certain like, there's times where people are like, I don't, like, I could take my life, and for me it's like,
That's a lot.
I want to
It's too
help
much.
you so bad, but I just also want you to understand that there's a line that you didn't cross, you just
Jumped
zoomed
over
it.
that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
it's like, there's only so much that we can do as, like, just say, like, uh, I don't really know how to put it, as like an iconic figure.
Creators
Yeah,
or
like
people that, yeah,
I'll make myself as accessible as humanly possible,
yeah,
and no matter what, I'm working 19 hours a day
yeah,
for the stream, the art, or the band.
yep,
One of the two. It's going to that. Like, I'll give you my everything, but if you like, there's, I guess, a fine point where, like, I can't help you there.
yeah. That's not your
Yeah,
job. That's no one's. Yeah, that.
but again, that's just going back to, like, the moderation thing. I think just that you can find a sense of belonging in people, but understand that oftentimes those people are probably going through things that they don't talk about in a public setting. So
Yeah, I mean, that's, and before we wrap it up, I think that's the thing is, I think even if you're getting therapy, I think having friends that get it, or people that you could just be like, "Hey man, I had a rough day." Like that, I think that's important because, you know, feeling friendship or feeling like people understand can save us from ourselves a lot of the times. But yeah, definitely, like if someone walks up to you at a show and is like, "Yo, I'm gonna go kill myself," you're like, like hold on, like I can't. There has to be that clear divide for people, and that's actually something the Twitch community's blown up about recently, is people coming in and putting that burden on others.
I've
Um,
actually seen that going around a little,
yeah.
with like a couple female streamers that
Hmm.
are posting about it. So
Yeah. So it's definitely something that, like, you know, we as content creators, or icons, or just people that people look up to, or however, we can listen to some degree, right? As long as that doesn't become something that's too consumptive for us. There's twofold: is that people need to know how much is too much for them to tell, right? Like how much can you put on someone, but also it's on us to know when to cut that conversation off.
yeah,
And so, but it's nice to know that no matter kind of, music or streaming or art, it's all kind of the same advice, that we get the same stuff. It's not just streamers. It's just that streaming's new enough that everyone's still talking about it that way.
I think it all falls into the same pond. Like that, I do notice a huge, well, we can say oversaturation, but I don't think it's a bad thing that more people are streaming. It's
No,
just like
no,
when, a year and a half ago, it's like few of my buddies in bands.
yeah,
Now it's like every
everyone,
dude in a
everyone,
band is streaming.
yeah,
It's just like, I think the cool thing is the pot's big enough for
yeah,
everybody to have their own.
yeah,
It's just like music. It's just like movies. It's just like books. It's like anything. I think the really cool thing, it's like the last little tangent I'll go on, is the really cool thing about entertainment and the dips in economy that come, is that no matter what, people are always going to keep paying to be entertained.
yep,
People always need to see movies. They always need music. They always need that sense of release from
yeah, that
the
escapism.
mundane normalcy of the Monday to Friday, working for Saturday and Sunday off. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, like, I
Yeah.
think that's where we take the responsibility of not having Saturday and Sunday off. We
Nope.
try to make ourselves accessible 23 hours and 58 minutes a day.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
get 2 minutes to yourself, but
Hmm. Yeah, you're
um,
not wrong.
like, it is a blessing to be
It is.
so submersed in a world where it's just, the possibilities are endless, to the point where we can do this. Like,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
just sitting having, like, a
States
casual
away.
conversation, and yeah, literally states away in different time zones.
Mm.
Like, that's wild. So it's really cool.
Well, Chris, we're gonna let you go for the night, but I want to go and take a second to thank you for, and I say this a lot, you hear it all the time, but I think what you said specifically about vulnerability and about being human and pouring your heart into, what you're doing. I hope that resonates with a lot of people. I know the band, when I'm there are some days it's like 8:30 in the morning. I haven't even had coffee yet, but I'll turn on the Bluetooth speaker in the bathroom and I'm going to shower to one of your tracks just to get amped and like ready to crush a day sort of thing. I think a lot of that's to do with the messaging behind a lot of the music, but a lot of it's knowing who you are, knowing that, we're not so different. And I think that's such a powerful feeling. So I hope that really sticks with a lot of people at the end of this. And thank you for your time, your friendship.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, dude.
Love you, buddy.
Yeah, dude. Big love. And, I'm sure because I was definitely that dude when I met you that was like, oh, dude, like he's super cool. Follow on Insta, follow on Twitter. And then I'm like giving you raids and hosts. Like definitely like I love hard. So thanks for putting up with that as well. So
no, I appreciate it. It goes a long way like that.
Good. Yeah.
That has echoed and people remember that, and you made your work on our people over there. So it's like I think it helps seeing how you handle like your community too. Like I think that's just like one of the bigger lessons that I've taken from our friendship is just how to handle like this world and the responsibility of like having an open Discord and an open kind of like dialogue that never really stops. So it's a cool responsibility to have, as stressful as it is. Like I really love I love it.
Yeah
I love the grind of it. I love the I don't know. I'm just cool. I appreciate you having me with it. Appreciate you.
Anytime. This won't be the last time. I'm right before your next tour, probably gonna hit you up to have you on here again. But remember, guys, if you like what you heard, if you like what you saw, if you haven't clicked off the podcast yet, patreon.com/Gooperatives. If you head on over there, great ways to support the communities, to support what we're doing. We're hiring a video editor to get all these videos churned out. Keep the lights on. We're selling art prints and stuff on there. Just trying to, build the empire. So thank you all for being here. Thank you all for listening. Chris,
thanks, guys.
Do you want to plug your Twitch real quick? Obviously plug your band one last time. We've been talking about it, but
yeah, it's twitch.tv/Broetter, BROETTER, and then the band's Like Moths to Flames. So
good, awesome.
A ton of music to catch up on if you never listened. Like,
yeah, skip that third album. Skip that
70 songs worth, but just skip the third. So.
2015 had a good album. This most recent one's great, but skip that third one. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. I'll definitely shoot you that text message soon. But big love. Give your wife a hug next time you see her. She doesn't know me, but doesn't matter.
She does. We've watched you enough to know. She knows.
Big nervy. All right.
Love you, buddy.